With the Citi Double Cash Card, you get 1% cash back when you buy and 1% as you pay. That's like the joy of getting 2 W's on the road or catching the home run ball without spilling your drink. Double boom. Double the love with the Citi Double Cash Card. Apply now at Citi.com/doublecash.
I walk into my home yesterday about 1:15, maybe 1:20, and I'm a little late for the Sunday games. And I'm with my friend, and I'm like, Al, what do you think? Patriots-Dolphins, 14-0? You think it's 14-0 already? I'm like 15 minutes late, and we turn on the television, and it's like 5 minutes in the first quarter, and it says Patriots 14-0. And I'm like, you got to file. I want to file charges against Belichick. Like, for what he's done to the AFC for the last 15 years, I think it's abusive. Yesterday, he's faking punts. Fourth and 8 in his own territory right at the beginning of the game because double middle fingers. Not enough for you that I'm going to beat you with Rex Burkhead while you can't do anything with any of your players?
He doesn't care anymore. Like, he'll try anything at any time.
I know, but especially against anyone in the AFC East, right?
Especially against those teams.
Right, like that's where Belichick is breaking out all the new sex moves that he's afraid to usually use in the bedroom. It's unbelievable. I just saw that the Jets lost yesterday to a quarterback that went 11 for 28.
Yep.
It's hard to do.
It is.
In the modern NFL, that's tough to do. Lose to a quarterback at home who goes 11 for 28.
Yep, 168 yards. But that's what the Jets do. They lose.
The Panthers got that cover, too.
Yeah, the Panthers do win those games. The Panthers probably have more wins than anyone in the sport the last 5 years when their quarterback goes 11 for 28. I'm making up the stat, but I'm not.
Feels right.
I want to talk about the University of Miami. Many people are writing in here, you got to rip Rozier. I'm not going to do it, man. I won't rip the quarterback play when they've gotten undefeated, hiding him all season long.
Right.
And you remember at the very beginning of the season, right, when me and Mike were having these arguments about what the University of Miami was, my criticism was the quarterback's not good enough. And I felt uncomfortable doing even that much, Stugotz.
Right.
Because I don't like treating college kids like professionals. But it's on you if you expected something more from him. It's your fault.
I mean, that's kind of the game he's had, all season. That game. He's had many games like that.
He didn't throw any interceptions, and he wasn't good. He left the championship on the field. He had open receivers that he missed. But I just wouldn't trust this team on the road against anybody. And I've told you before, I've told you all season when they're beating Syracuse and Virginia, these point spreads are too big. That they shouldn't be favored by double digits against anybody.
Right. You had no issues with Mark Richt taking him out of the game? I mean, he's taking you that far. He's had bad games and then great fourth quarters and figures out a way to win, because I kind of had an issue with that. Like, that's the guy that got you there. Just let him try to figure it out.
Mark Richt has told you all season, very gently, that his quarterback's not good enough. All season. At halftime of that game, he's running off the field. And, it was Popovich running off the field. They asked him one question. You're allowed 2 questions. You're allowed 2 questions as a radio reporter as the coach leaves the field. One question, got out. We're fine. We'll be fine. And the next question, what did you do wrong in that first half? Can't throw, can't catch. I mean, can't throw's on one person.
Right. Well, clearly.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, that's...
But can't catch is on a couple of different guys.
And so, that's enough. That's harsh enough for the quarterback play for a college kid. I feel like they ratcheted up your expectations at a time when nobody in the sport is that good. And then, they lose to a team that's not very good. But look at, Stugotz, how many losses do the teams they've played on the road have? Is it 25? I think they played 4 teams on the road. And those 4 teams, FSU's got 6 losses. Does North Carolina have 9? 9 losses.
I'm checking right now.
Pittsburgh's got 7 losses.
Right.
And Duke's got, 6 losses?
I'm checking right now.
Those are the teams they played on the road. I don't know why, neutral field or not, I don't know why you would expect them to win against Clemson.
Right, Duke has 6 losses. You're right there.
But why would you expect them to beat Clemson? Like Mike.
Neutral field, I mean.
Neutral site is different.
It's a little bit different, Dan. They're not playing.
It is a little bit different, but
I'm interested to see how Auburn plays neutral site against Georgia. I am interested.
I'll grant you. Look, man, I like Miami's chances against even Auburn at home at night, and I give them no chance at all against the Auburns of the world. None on the road. The Clemsons of the world.
Right.
Neutral field. I mean,
it's a little bit different, Dan.
It's a lot different. Okay, it's a little bit different, yes, but it's going to be number one, travels well Clemson, number one in the country.
Close to their campus.
Right.
And, again, the teams Miami has played on the road this year. FSU barely won. FSU's lost 6 times this year. North Carolina barely won. North Carolina's lost 9 times this year. Duke, 6 losses, and you didn't beat Pittsburgh, and they've got 7 losses. Those are bad football teams, Dugats. None of those teams, you're barely making the worst of the bowls.
Right. Didn't Clemson lose to Pitt last year? Did that happen? Yep. Clemson losing to Pitt?
Yeah.
All right. I mean,
not to a true freshman quarterback, though.
Well, they lost at home, though.
Yes, but not to a freshman quarterback.
Yeah, I don't put much stock in freshman quarterbacks. There's a lot of good freshmen nowadays. Teams go to the title game with freshman quarterbacks nowadays.
He's their third-string quarterback.
Yeah, I mean
he's going to be good.
He looked good.
He's going to be good, but he's their third-string quarterback. Had he started a game all year?
I believe that was his first start. Yeah, they called a great game for him. Neutral site game is a lot different because both teams just have to go through the whole traveling deal, even though it's probably going to be about 70-30. Clemson fans to Miami fans.
Why are you optimistic?
I'm optimistic because this is a resilient team. They seem to play to the level of their competition. Neutral site, I have a lot of stock in that. I think Miami travels really well within that state, especially. Anytime Miami goes on the road and they play at Wake Forest or at Duke or at North Carolina, there's a really strong Miami Hurricane contingent. I know that they sold out of their given allotment, and I think, given the way that the end of the season could have gone, I think you're probably going to get the best Miami Hurricanes you possibly have coming off a loss like that. It's a resilient squad, and I put faith in them.
Aren't you optimistic? It's just that, Dan, it's a one-game scenario. It's football. It's crazy. Anything can happen.
Yeah, of course.
One-game scenario on a neutral field. Winner goes on, loser's done.
Of course. That's always a possibility, but you're grasping at straws when your explanations for why the Hurricanes are going to win are resiliency.
Right.
And anyone can win one game.
My reason is football.
Okay, yeah. That's fine.
And also, I don't think Clemson's is a dominant team. I don't think there's a dominant team in college football.
That's also fair. But Miami outside its stadium, I trust against no one. And I don't know.
And that's fair.
Never mind. But okay, you're saying it's fair, but it's the number one team in the country now. They're going on the Miami outside of its stadium.
Right. I mean, Dan, I think Clemson's going to win the game, but it's not like stranger things will have happened if Miami ends up beating Clemson.
But that's,
I mean, they're going to be the 6th or 7th ranked team in the country. They've lost once this year.
Yeah, I'm going to lose this debate as far as how I like their chances, because what I'm doing is I just got a feeling, and that sounds ridiculous, but also I've just had a feeling all season, and I kind of been on the money about it.
Okay, but this stadium is a block from Clemson,
Yeah,
are you out of your mind?
Yeah, they got to travel though. They got to do the whole traveling thing, just like the University of Miami. I think there's going to be a good Miami turnout out there, and Miami's going in there with the right attitude. It's a playoff game, winning in, so they know what they have to do.
It's been a successful season,
unmitigated success,
and it doesn't matter what happens in this next game.
They got a play-in game, man. It's exciting.
Okay, This is what I would say to you based on what it is that I've seen from this team. They're better off losing to Clemson in a close game than getting into the Final Four and getting throttled. This team's not that
no one's
good.
throttling anybody in college football this season. Miami can hang.
I mean, Pittsburgh pretty much throttled you, dude.
Okay, well,
4-7 Pittsburgh. So
you're telling me it's better to lose to Clemson than actually beat Clemson? Because if I beat Clemson, I feel I can beat any team in the nation.
Well, I mean, I think they're going to get smoked by Clemson.
All right.
Okay.
You're not alone?
You're not.
What's the line right now?
I think it's up to 7.5 because people jumped on them. I think I read somewhere that it went up to 8. I know that the advance line was 6.5, and it stayed consistent with that, and then people started taking Clemson because of obvious reasons. Clemson looks really good, and Miami's coming off a bad loss.
I think you've got the other problem that you've got, Stugotz, that never mind your quarterback, your 3 playmakers are all either out or busted up. Walton, out. Herndon, out, and Richards on the training table the entire game against Pittsburgh. That's going. So now you're not just playing the number one team in the country with Rozier. You're doing it with Rozier, an offensive line that's not great, and not. I mean, you guys can make the arguments that you want to make, but they're not good arguments.
Yeah, Richards has been a shell of himself this season because that's a horrible injury to fight through all season, a hammy. And you're kind of hopeful that if he gets a month off, you'll get a more normal Amon Richards in whatever bowl game they play in. That being said, he was open twice on touchdowns, and Rozier missed him. Jeff Thomas was open twice. I don't know how you overthrow 4.3 speed on 4 occasions, but Rozier did that.
He's not that good.
You guys, no, it's not. He's just inconsistent, and
but you got to let him finish that game, man. I'm sorry, you have to.
I mean, he did finish the game.
He did finish the game.
I know, but I don't. You know what? They brought in sheriffs. I think I don't bring in any quarterback at all. I just let Rozier play start to finish.
Okay, but
he's earned that.
Rozier did respond to it.
Okay, but here's what I will not do today because they failed to meet inflated expectations that they inflated by overachieving. I'm not going to rip their quarterback, and I sure as hell am not going to rip their coach. Right. That guy has been hiding his quarterbacks to undefeated and number 2 in the country all season with bubble screens, with slants, with easy passes, with running plays, with read options. No, I will not do it, man. I won't do this same thing that we do in sports radio for 15 years around here. Team loses, I'm disappointed, rip the coach.
With a game plan that's evolved as the season's gone on to keep teams off balance and showing a new part of the offense almost every damn week.
But what are we supposed to do?
I think you can marvel at the season, man. I know you want to question decisions, but I like longer views than shorter views. This has been a wildly successful season with all of the things in play that you need to make a run in coming seasons. You got a likable coach that people want to be around, that's enthusiastic, that's spiritual, that gets good recruiting classes and gives them a little wiggle room with the halo over the huddle to show some swagger and have some personality. Do that chain thing. And then you win. You create an atmosphere at home that I can't believe they've recreated. Honest to God, it's one of the most surprising things in my sports lifetime down here that place can feel that way at night. I have Robbie built the place. It never felt that way at night.
Right. You've been laughing at their stadium advantage.
Been laughing at it. Been laughing at it.
Ever since they've been there.
And proved laughably wrong. Laughably wrong.
But I just want to be clear on something, Mike. I'm sorry because Texans are confused. I'm a bit confused. You're saying that it'd be better for Miami to lose a close game to Clemson than to advance to the Final Four. Maybe they play Wisconsin. Let me clarify because that would be a stupid thing to say. Let me clarify. All right.
With what I think is going to happen, they'd be better off losing a close game against Clemson, and everybody's like, whoa, they're almost there, than getting to the next round, and what I believe would happen is they get smoked. What I'm saying is they'd be better off.
But don't you think if they beat Clemson, they have a chance against anyone, neutral fields?
I mean, weird things can happen, right? What if Clemson's quarterback is hurt again the way he was against Syracuse?
Right.
And then Miami wins and then gets to the next round.
Okay, but
I don't think they're going to beat Clemson outside of some sort of fluke.
I mean, he's been out there and their offense hasn't been that great. They're certainly beatable offense. That game that they had last week, while they were impressive, that sort of spiraled out of control for South Carolina. They're a beatable team. There's no dominant team in college football this season, and if they beat Clemson and win an ACC championship, which I think everyone's just sort of paying attention to the college football playoff, and I understand the expectations, but winning arguably the best conference in the nation is a hell of an achievement, and that's what I'm going to Charlotte for. I'm going because they have a shot to win this conference, and I'm going to treat that like a damn Super Bowl.
I feel like you're going to be really disappointed making that trip and being
You've said that often, and you've been wrong a lot.
I know, but I was right at the end.
So was I, though. That game's a bad spot, and it's on the road. And we've been saying all season that Rozier's bound to lose you a game potentially. And they've been doing. I mean, it's a shell game what they've been doing on offense, trying to hide his flaws. And he did lose that game.
Do you realize though what a bad argument that is? Just if we were in a court of law arguing for the teams. The idea of anyone can be beat and the idea of everyone in college football is vulnerable, those aren't good arguments because Miami's more vulnerable than Clemson.
Understood.
Right.
One of my obvious arguments is we have a good team. We have good players. That there isn't a big discrepancy in the talent that's on the field between the two teams. There's just a discrepancy in age.
The next step, I would say to you, though, I do believe there is a difference in talent. You will see it in the backfield when Etienne, number 9 for Clemson, is running, and you're going to miss Walton a whole lot when he does that because he's going to be the fastest player on the field by a lot if he can run against Miami. By a lot, he's going to be the fastest player on the field.
Really? But, I mean, we got our receivers run 4.3.
Yeah, I mean, he's a track star. Like I think the two fastest players I've seen in the country, one of them is the Central Florida running back, and the other one is the running back for Clemson.
So if they beat Clemson, I just want to see where you are with this team. They beat Clemson. You're on the committee. Do you put them in? Or do you put Alabama in?
No, I put them in
because I think you think Alabama would destroy them.
Alabama, yes, I do, but that's not what it's about. Like that's
well, no, I think it is for the committee.
No, but if it is about what I thought was going to happen, Miami is not one of the 4 best teams in the country because there's no way you're going to make the argument to me that Miami is better than Alabama, Auburn, or Georgia. You can't It's really hard to make that argument.
Sure. Agreed, but you also have to hold something against Alabama, who's played nobody this season.
They've played no one. Alabama, Alabama.
Their best win, loss at home to Troy.
That's right.
That's their best win.
Did they lose to Troy or did they win at the end of that game?
LSU lost at home to Troy.
Yeah, I think the best win on Alabama's schedule is LSU, and LSU has 2 or 3 losses. And
yeah, I guess on the road at Mississippi State, who just lost.
They lost 4 times.
Isn't it Florida State when everyone's healthy?
Yeah, well, that's going to be how do they treat that Florida State game? Because at the time, I think Florida State was legit 3rd best team in the nation with Francois quarterback. And it's funny how you can do that because they've lost 6 times, but you have to give them credit for winning that game on a neutral site.
I just think of them as an above-average team. I do not put them with the best.
But to Stugatz's point, if you beat Clemson, the number 1 team in the nation, on a neutral site, that's the most impressive victory of the season out of any college football team.
That's correct.
So you have to reward them as a conference champion.
There's not a lot of dispute for that, but I don't really want to do the whole arguing about poll slotting because all of these teams are going to lose 7 or 8 more times this season. All of them.
It's crazy.
Miami's going to lose twice before the ACC game next weekend.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Don Le Batard.
I don't like J.J. Watt. I think he's a phony. I think he's a fraud.
Okay, well.
Little cabin in the woods. So I'm with you, Dan.
I don't want you with
me. Well, I'm with you.
Well, I'm not saying what you're saying.
What are you saying?
Stugatz.
Houston really needs to find better. I don't care. They don't deserve for me to pronounce the H. You get mad over a Le Batard tweet about J.J. Watt? I mean, everywhere you look, it's J.J. Watt. Everywhere. It wasn't the Texans on Hard Knocks. It was J.J. Watt on Hard Knocks. An hour of J.J. Watt turning over a tire. Get over yourself.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugatz on the ticket.
You can text the show on the Carl Springs Automall Nissan text line at 67974.
It's so funny to watch Guillermo and Mike back there. They've already talked themselves into a lather about the committee omitting them after they beat Clemson. I don't understand talking about committee rankings at this point in the season.
Well, Guillermo doesn't want to live in a world where the Canes win, they don't get in, and Miami and Laz from Cutler Ridge are complaining about it for a year. That's what he's trying to avoid.
Yeah, they either need to lose straight up, and then there'll be no question, or they need to get in. Because if they win and they don't get in, then this is going to be the 7th national championship, and this is going to be on the same level as a pass interference.
But what I'm
saying, I can't live in that world, Dan. I can't live in that world.
And I understand what you're saying, but the argument I'm making in the abstract is that they'd be better off in that position than actually getting to see their team exposed over the next 2 games after that. They'd be better to remember nostalgically that team could have.
That's so weird, man.
I know.
I mean, you are taking takes to a place I've never taken them to. You are hoping that they don't advance to the Final Four.
Whoa.
You think it's better for the program?
He's absolutely right. For the psyche of the fans, it's better to wonder what if.
I'm talking about for the fans. I'm not talking about, hold on.
No,
I am not hoping for these things, but back off? No, because you guys are not going to pin me down on this.
Right.
You're not going to pin me down on this.
Okay.
Because you guys want the argument to be that I am rooting for, want, and believe that the Miami Hurricanes finish outside the four.
Feels that way.
You know what he's doing, Sugats?
What's he doing?
He's taking a season's worth of L's, and he is laying the groundwork to end the season on a W.
Yep.
I am telling you.
We're on to you.
That this team, what you guys saw at Pitt, and this is important, Stugats, what you saw happen to Miami at Pitt is the same thing you saw happen to Alabama against Auburn. One of the big boys.
Right.
Like Alabama, the best of the best, isn't losing to the small-timers. They're not losing to Pitt.
Although Clemson lost to Syracuse.
Yes, Clemson lost to Syracuse when their quarterback was hurt in a close game, in a game I thought they were going to win to the very end of it. I never thought the Miami game, once that game got to halftime, or once you saw what was happening in the second half, you saw that Miami was going to lose that game.
Correct. Ohio State, though, loses to Iowa. That's a 5 or 6 win team. They got blown out by Iowa.
Okay, but I was better. I was a bowl team. Pitt is, with a freshman playing his first game, a 4-7 football team. And I saw Syracuse stinks, okay? But Syracuse's quarterback is good.
Right. I mean, Dan, there's bad losses. Oklahoma lost where? Indiana?
Oklahoma lost to Iowa State.
Yes, there's been giant killers all season.
There are bad losses everywhere. But those teams also, and I don't think this is irrelevant, aren't squeaking by some of those other games, so many of those other games. And so while Miami over the last 3 games before this one looked dominant at home, since then, what have you seen happen? You've seen Virginia Tech, Virginia, and Notre Dame, none of them be any good.
Right. I'm just pointing out that I think for all of these teams, if you look at their schedule, they've all had those kind of games. Like Oklahoma almost lost to Baylor, man. To Baylor. Baylor's bad. It was 49-41. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty close game.
No, I'm not disputing that college is really random. Like, if you think of it this way, we are always saying how random professional football is. College football's the same thing, except these are the differences. The kids are even younger, more immature. And then the reason it's the same thing, Stugats, is because the top 30 teams in college football all have the best players.
Right.
And so they're essentially the National Football League, 30 teams that all have the best players, and then you throw the randomness in there and the kids element, and you're going to get something even more random than football Sundays.
Sure. Within the SEC, though, you're right. The 3 teams, like, they all have a loss, but 2 of them lost to Auburn.
No, and you know that Georgia. I feel like I could say this to the Miami fan without insulting the Miami fan. And I've been saying all year that I believe UCF and USF are as good as Miami, and I still believe that. I think you watched the UCF?
Yeah, I saw the winning team give up 700 yards of offense.
Yeah, that Flowers kid is amazing, man.
Yeah, but good teams don't give up 700 yards of offense, man.
Okay, fair enough. I would say good teams don't,
lose at Pitt. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to put up that offensive showing at Pitt.
But now that I mention it.
Is what I was going to say. That offensive showing was really bad at Pitt. Like, you're very proud of your defense. You don't really pay attention so much that your offense stinks.
Man, they had 4 touchdowns. They had their defenders beat and walk-in touchdowns, and they didn't get it.
Isn't that the hope, though? That defense, because it's so good, they give you a chance in just about every game, right?
Yes, that is the hope.
I mean, football's about matchups, right? That defensive line can win its individual matchups against a Clemson offensive line and make that game closer than what Dan thinks.
But do you realize how smoked you got when you had a 2 turnover advantage, and that's the way you lost at Pitt? Like, are you aware of how smoked you got? It's not like you lost the way Clemson lost against Syracuse, where they're in it to the very end of the game.
Yeah, well, Pitt was holding the whole game. They cheated.
That's true, too. That is true.
It is absurd with the athletes that you have on this defensive line, in which scouts are telling you they're all pros on that defensive line, and you can't get a holding call since the FSU game. It's outrageous. I watch back those games because they're always on ESPNU. The Virginia and Pitt game, it's laughable.
You'll get them at Clemson. You'll get them in this next game because now people are aware of it.
Yeah.
You will no, but I'm saying the reports are good. We all know that stat now. The Miami Hurricanes defensive line, a very good defensive line, the best unit that they have. A Miami Hurricane defensive line has not got a holding call since the beginning of October. Now everyone's aware of that.
That's so crazy. I wouldn't believe that stat if it were for any team, let alone one of the best defensive lines.
You guys know something here, though? Like, I know Miami fans right now. Billy and Mike already worked themselves into the lather. The committee leaving them out if they beat Clemson. Listen to what I'm about to tell you, Stugotz.
Okay.
Central Florida has a professional quarterback. Central Florida has the fastest or second fastest running back I've seen in the sport this season. Central Florida has a menacing defensive player of the year who has one hand. And they're unbeaten, and they ain't getting into the Final Four. And I'd be pissed.
They haven't played anyone.
I know they haven't, and they might lose against Memphis, even though they beat Memphis earlier this year. They haven't played anyone, but that team is legitimately good. Yeah. That team, that USF UCF game was cocaine.
Oh, what a hell of a game!
I mean, just all the athletes on the field. Like it felt like you were watching. I felt if I had put Alabama and FSU in those uniforms, that you would have been like, yeah. If I put those teams in that uniform and played a 49-42 game, Auburn, it would have looked just like Auburn, Alabama.
Yeah, those are grown men. Those are grown men playing.
But that's what I've been telling you all season about South Florida. I don't feel like, and you were right about Miami's defensive line, but I didn't feel like Miami had as many of those players. I don't feel like Miami has as many of these players where you look at them, well, nobody looks like that Scarborough kid who runs the ball for Alabama. That guy's 35 years old, but you know what I mean.
He's still there.
McIntosh still looks like a kid.
Right. It's funny, Mike. Didn't Houston go down a similar path as UCF, except they played people last year? Houston was on track to make it. Yeah. They beat Oklahoma.
And they slipped up. I mean, and that's why
they lost to Memphis, by the way.
Yeah, and that's why, and I think that's a good call on Memphis, even though they got destroyed by UCF earlier in the season. Scott Frost is basically going to be coaching that game in a Nebraska warm up.
I would be so mad of all of this if I were Central Florida. My coach is using us as a stepping stone as we're sitting here giving him a private plane because his wife might go into labor. And he's going to get out of here before he's going to start doing the Nebraska job because he's got to start recruiting now.
Right.
And he's got a team that is as good as any I've seen.
He's got a chance to go back home, though, to where he played college football, Power 5 conference. I mean, I understand it.
I don't blame him I don't blame him for gaming the rules for his own personal profit. I know you're not going to blame him for that.
Nope.
I'm just saying that how unfair all of that is to the kids. Like, they've got a legitimate gripe. They've got a kid with one hand. Like, he's sitting there, he's got one hand. He's causing fumbles with that. The other hand, he had an interception I saw the other day.
Get out of here.
He had an interception.
Wow. Yeah, you win every argument with that. He's got one hand.
But, I mean, he's great.
Yeah.
But how mad would you be if you were...
Be mad. Going undefeated matters. It's hard to go undefeated. You saw it, Pitt. It's hard.
Not just that. Their offense is amazing. Their offense scores 45 against everybody. If I wish I were doing Central Florida radio.
Don Batard.
My last name means illegitimate son of the king, Stugotz. Were you aware of that?
Stugotz.
No. You know what my last name means, right?
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz on the ticket.
So let me make this clear because Kane's Twitter, Twitter, wants to climb up the foot of somebody.
Yeah.
So let me make something clear on the front end here, Stugotz, because I think you're purposely misrepresenting me in an effort to get me in trouble with Hurricane Twitter. Right. So let me say what I am rooting for.
Okay.
I am rooting for the Miami Hurricanes to go on a 3-game winning streak. I am rooting for the University of Miami to win the national championship. But because I'm rooting for those things doesn't mean I think they will happen.
Right.
And so what I am saying is a close loss against Clemson will have the fan base feeling disappointed in the short run. Winning against Clemson and being left out of the tournament would have fans angry long term. They'll remember it for as long as they're alive.
Right.
Because it will feel so unfair if Miami beats Clemson, the number one team in the country, and doesn't get into the Final Four with one loss after winning the ACC. It doesn't even make any sense.
Right.
But because I think that this team is not yet top tier because the best arguments to make on behalf of them beating Clemson are 1-game sample size. They're resilient. I love them. I hope. Football, right.
Yes.
But those aren't good arguments. Clemson's going to go off at whatever it is, a touchdown to a 10-point favorite.
Right.
Because, and that's about what they were getting against South Carolina this weekend. That's how they're being regarded.
Sure. Blew them out.
Blew out South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Did in that final game. The stakes were the same in that last game for Clemson and Miami. You saw what Miami did against Pittsburgh. You saw what Clemson did against South Carolina.
Tougher place to play in a rivalry game, too. It was super impressive.
Yeah, what they did to South Carolina. But that's why I think that's truer to who Clemson has been all season. Was the Clemson-North Carolina State game at NC State? It was at NC State, right?
Yeah, that was close.
See, I believe Miami would have, I believe Miami would have lost all the games on Clemson's schedule that were on the road. All of them.
Well, most of them, right?
No, all of them.
I mean, okay. You think they're losing at Louisville?
Yes.
At Virginia Tech?
Yes.
At Syracuse?
Yes.
At NC State?
Yes.
At South Carolina?
That's why I think that team is a good deal better than yours. I think Miami loses all of those games. And I don't think I'm insulting you by saying that. That's not what I want to be so.
I'm more confused
intense.
Now than I was earlier this hour, to be honest. That's certain what you want.
That's pretty intense. This team beat Notre Dame 41-8.
I know, on the road.
Yeah, okay, but bad teams.
On the road.
You're not going to lose all the games, Dan.
No, I'm saying they could have lost all of them. I'm not saying.
You're making them like a 5-win team here. If they had Clemson's schedule.
I don't trust. Look,
I don't know if that makes them bowl.
All of those teams that Clemson has played on the road are better than the ones Miami has played on the road. Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, but I'm not going to say that they'd lose them.
They almost lost to North Carolina, Mike, on the road. North Carolina has 9 losses.
You can only play your schedule, Dan. That's it. Play the team in front of you.
Anyway, to clarify the point that I've made worse.
You have made it worse.
Confused.
You're doing this to yourself, dude.
Listen to me.
You're hoping for something, but you think something that runs completely counter to what you're hoping is better for the program.
That is correct.
Weird.
Listen to me. Let me finish the point. Even though I'm going to get distracted on occasion.
You're covering all bases, man. Proud of you. Took you a while, but feels good, doesn't it?
It's super gutsy.
You can't be wrong. It's great.
I don't think he has his bowl eligible if we played a different road schedule.
I did make it worse. I didn't realize I was making it worse, and I made it worse. What I was trying to say is...
All right, try again. Slowly this time, though. Take your time.
They won road games last season. You know that, right?
Because I believe they're going to lose one of their next 3 games badly, the fan base will feel better if it is jobbed, will feel better about its team. Because that's what I'm saying. I believe they're not going to win the championship, and I believe they're going to lose one of the next 3 games badly. And you remember that year that Oregon got in against FSU, Jameis Winston? And that's not the way you want to end your season. The way Oregon did, which is like, we hope we're in the Final Four. Whoa, program's never the same.
Right.
I'm confused because Oregon smashed Jameis Winston in a Rose Bowl to get to the national championship.
There was the one, was it the one before? Whichever year that Florida State won the championship.
Well, it's unraveling for Dan right now.
It is.
What was the year that Oregon got in and lost by 1 million points?
Was that the Auburn game? I thought that game was close. This is a weird...
Oregon lost one of those games by like 40 points where they got...
Like a national championship game?
No, the play into the national championship, the semifinal game.
Okay.
Do you say so?
Checking it. What happened?
We're looking it up.
I'm trying to back you up. I know.
But do you not remember this?
I know that they beat Jameis Winston up badly. That was his last game as a collegiate player, and they smashed him.
But that's the game that FSU. No, that's the game FSU lost.
Yes, lost pretty handily, and they lost 22-19 against Auburn in the national championship game.
No, it was the year that Jameis Winston won the championship as a freshman.
Okay.
When they went undefeated.
Stand by.
I think. Anyway.
Hold on a second.
We're just going to all look at the internet together.
We have to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, we do. Quickly. All
right, I'll wait.
Oregon, Florida State semifinal game. They did lose to Auburn. That was a close game.
Maybe it was Ohio State. Maybe it was. Or I remember one of the years Oregon got in and then got smoked.
Are you going to be satisfied if I find out Dan Fouts was a quarterback, but it works for you?
No, we can keep it moving.
I think it was
Guillermo's found it.
2015.
Guillermo's found it.
Yeah.
I found the Oregon-Florida State game where they won 59-20.
Yeah, I see the same one, yeah. That was under Mark Helfer. Blew him out. Made it to the national championship.
Did you think the scores
Such a
were the
bad
opposite?
thing.
Is that what happened?
What's that?
Did you think that the scores were opposite?
No. Oregon got in.
So you want me to try Ohio State
Oregon
now?
got in. Or maybe it was the FSU team I was thinking of. Maybe it was the FSU team that they got in, that they weren't that good.
So what's your position again?
Can I tell you by 40? I'm trying to see where they lost.
The University of Miami. Let me tell you something funny. I was driving around and I was listening to parts of that game on the radio, and Joe Zagacki gets so mad at everybody. It's tremendous.
He does.
But him bitching at the referee.
It's ridiculous.
If the referee can hear, what number 14? We don't have a number 14. Who's number 14? Get your act together, referee.
I love that.
And then he'll call the referee by name. It's magic. Like it.
Great, yes.
I was driving around laughing like I was listening to a comedy channel, listening to Joe Zagacki get insane with rage.
Right. Now they did lose to Oregon to the Buckeyes, right? We've discussed this.
So it was Ohio
42-20. They lost to the national championship game 2015 after
Not the game.
They blew out Florida State.
You thought it was Ohio State losing to Clemson.
Right.
They lost 31-0.
I want to move off of that. The point being, it better to not get in than to lose badly in one of the final two games.
Gotcha. Terrible take.
Yeah.
But wait.
Awful.
I'm sure Oregon was very disappointed they made it to a national championship.
Listen to me for a second.
Oh, no. What if we get blown out?
What's going on 20 minutes?
Oh, no, this huge payout. What are we going to do with this?
I don't even want to try.
No.
I don't want to end the season this way. Just give them the win.
Guillermo's with me. Wait a minute. Guillermo, when did you turn? Did I make the argument so poorly that you've turned heel to the other side? Right. I have made the argument poorly. I cannot dispute that for a second.
I'm not even certain what the argument is.
That fans will feel better thinking their team had a chance.
Right.
Than to have it proven that they didn't. That's what I'm saying. That if you don't get in or you lose to Clemson, fans will feel better about thinking that they had a chance at the championship than to get in the final two games and have their hope disproven.
That's where
I said it well.
That's where UCF's going to be.
That's right. That's right.
You did say it well.
That is where UCF is going to be. That is correct.
You're just
UCF can believe for the rest of time that they have the best team in the country, and it will never be refuted if they don't lose at Memphis.
No one believes that. I mean,
no, but they will believe. They can believe.
You think they think they have the best team in the country? You think they think that they'd beat Alabama?
Just them and Dan.
Yeah.
It's just us.
I'm not even certain.
It is just us.
That.
This is your home for Golden Knights football.
You got a weird thing going on with this.
I love that team. I love how many athletes they have. He's got one hand. Guys out there crushing everybody with one hand. Are you kidding me? Like, you put in why is the committee not just here? Final four.
You think Kirby Hocutt should release a statement that says he has one hand?
Yes. The University of Miami should concede its spot the way that they gave away the chain to Redwine because he made the hit. The University of Miami should gracefully give their spot to UCF.
Because he has one hand.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Now, that's some feel-good. You give your spot in the Final Four over to UCF. You don't get blown out. I mean, that's for you an idea.
Well, did you see? This happened in the University of Miami game on Saturday. Stugotz, did you not see this? Because it made me actually think of you. Would Stugotz do this? Do you realize that they had the first situation where one of the players got the turnover but gave the chain to somebody else?
Yeah, I'm not giving that thing away. I mean, if I get the turnover, I get the turnover. That chain's going around my neck. Until someone else gets the turnover.
Redwine made a huge hit.
Massive play.
Yeah.
That was so pro football focus of them to do that. He deserved the chain, not some guy that just jumps on it.
That's right. It was cool. It was a really nice thing that would have been made all the cooler if they'd won. You realize how many times that would have been shown it might still be shown before the ACC game, but it would have been shown all week here if Miami was still undefeated.
And that's the first time they did that all season?
That's the first time I've seen where someone else wears the chain other than the guy who got the football.
This Pickney guy who won the first chain and held it up in the air, that dude is so Miami. He is such a Miami Hurricane. I follow him on Instagram. Every away game, he flies on the plane shirtless. I thought it was just for Tallahassee because it's like a 20-minute plane ride.
Everywhere?
He went to Pittsburgh shirtless.
Mike,
it's cold when he gets off that plane.
This is why I like Mark Richt. This is one of the reasons I like Mark Richt. You think Saban's allowing that? Think about that. Guillermo, put it on the poll. Is Saban allowing a kid to get on the plane shirtless?
I heard a story about Pickney, and this is all like third hand, but he showed up to practice, and the first practices of the spring, he was kind of out of shape, tired, asking out, telling coaches, I can't do it, frustrating the hell out of the coaches. And the first spring game, the guy just is the best player on the defensive field, killing everybody, leads a team in tackles, and he comes off the field, and the coaches look at each other and say, this kid's going to be a problem.
Well, why haven't we talked to him? I want to talk to the guy who gets on the flight shirtless.
Yes. They have a difficult practice schedule in regards to our show. If we were on an hour earlier, we would have all these guys. That dude's an absolute character. His Instagram page scares me.
How good is the player in your Saban scenario? How good is it? Is it Julio Jones? Like, what if Julio Jones wants to get on shirtless?
Scarborough. It's that guy who looks like he can beat up your strength coach. That Scarborough guy looks like something on a Green Mile. You remember your first time you saw Green Mile, and you're like, who's that guy, and why is he so much bigger than Tom Hanks?
They have Michael Clark Duncan in their backfield.
Scarborough is like seeing Todd Gurley now playing against FIU. It's like, wait a minute, what?
I think it's a jersey number. Stugotz makes the right point. He looks like Julio Jones.
Yes.
Because of the hair and the number in college, but he's a running back.
But
on a neutral field, they'd be an 11-point favorite against Miami, Alabama, and Scarborough. Because obviously, look at them.
Right.
That's what Mike, how many players, that's the thing that I was trying to figure out is how many players does Miami, no, nobody's got that guy. All right. Oh. That guy, nobody's got him. But Clemson's front line, those look like men. Yeah. There were a lot of men in that Central Florida, South Florida game.
Yeah, unfortunately for Miami, the two guys at their position that look most like men, I mean, Mark Walton was super filled out, and he played tough. Mm-hmm. And Herndon is a man, and they're out for this game.
Yeah, well, that's another reason that the arguments aren't good for Miami. Like, you got to go to resilient because you don't have health.
Right. Yeah, I don't know where we're going to go without that Herndon bubble screen that's been killing teams. Herndon and Walton being out, like, I don't think I'd be talking about it quite this way, given how badly they disproved me on Notre Dame, if I thought that their offense had a chance. But I think that's the reason why it's been such a great season, and I know you've been saying this, but I want to say it with a better tone. Magical season.
Great season.
That Georgia Tech game, they had no business winning that game. A miraculous ending, and they were so banged up in that game, and they found a way. They're in the ACC championship game with a chance to play themselves into an important college football playoff. Game day is going to be at this game. They're the talk. This game is the game in college football. Once again, that's how you're back, nationally relevant, when you're the game, and they've been the game quite often. Mm-hmm. And despite all these injuries, and despite being overmatched, and despite being super young, it's an awesome season.
That's agreed. But also all the reasons that I don't believe that they can win the championship. And I don't think that's an insult because you just said overmatched, unhealthy, and young. Like, that's a...
Okay, cool.
Come on,
cool.
Guys.
I don't think we're going to win the national championship either. I can talk myself into it as a fan if they beat the number one team on a neutral field because that's as good of a win as anybody's had in college football. And we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. It's about winning the ACC championship.
That Notre Dame victory is getting weaker with distance.
But just to put a bow on this entire hour, you want the Canes to lose this weekend?
Or just do what Oregon did against FSU.
Yes, to be clear, just lose in the semifinals as Oregon by 60 in a game that wasn't actually played, except in Dan's imagination.